Hello and welcome to another edition of the Monday Night Wars. It is February 5th, 1996, and we are live as always with WCW Monday Night Nitro from Lakeland Center, Jenkins Arena in Lakeland, Florida. I am Scott, and with me is Joseph. Joseph, how are you, my friend?
I am good, Scott. How are you doing?
I can't wait to talk about all of this because, fair listener, we're going to go through a month of content today. We are recording a month of content, and you can listen along and hear us get progressively more annoyed and tired. It'll be exciting for you.
You say that, but I feel like because we did this again. This is the second time we've done this. We did this for the month of January, and we made it through pretty well for the most part. I think we were just kind of relaxed. We did by the end, you could tell we just didn't really we weren't talking exclusively about wrestling anymore, but it didn't lead to like super long episodes or anything. And it was just, it's a good time. So I think we'll be surprised by our endurance.
Well, let's get into it because this is the go home show for Super Brawl. And Hulk Hogan, he has an eye injury. Another dark day for Hulkamania. Joseph, what do you make of all this tragedy before Super Brawl? It's never happened before. The Team Hogan in a dark place where they will never recover right before a pay-per-view. It's never been done.
Yeah, you're right. This is new ground. I mean, we talked about this all last month, right? Where it's just WCW. I don't even want to say has lost their way. They're just complacent. It's just kind of the same thing over and over because they're trying for sure, but it's just rinse and repeat, and we're seeing that, and it's going to be more absurd come Super Brawl. So have fun and get ready to subscribe to our Patreon and join us on that.
Because Super Brawl is gonna be it's gonna be wild.
Yes.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have some fun talking about Super Brawl. I guess you can call it fun. Some would say. Some would say. But let's talk about the first match. We've got Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth and the Woman, and he is wrestling Chris Benoit for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Savage gets wrecked. Benoit is going wild. We talk some smack about WWF. Savage goes outside. Benoit attempts a suicide dive and goes headfirst into the railing. It's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty. He's out. Macho rolls him back into the ring for the elbow drop. Flair comes out. He's trying to seduce Miss Elizabeth and the Woman. Macho Man confronts him. The Woman turns heel, Joseph. My God. Arn comes out for the beat down on the Macho Man. Results in a DQ. Hulk Hogan comes out, blind in one eye, with a chair to clear the ring. Even with one eye, he can take them all on. Joseph, what do you make of all this?
It's interesting that you mentioned the suicide dive because I actually had that in my notes as well, especially with just how gnarly it looks. And it looks like he really does completely put himself out. The crazy thing is right after that, when Mach hits the diving elbow on Chris Benoit, that diving elbow is on the back of Chris Benoit's neck. And when you know what happens with this individual, it's definitely difficult to watch. The
And
match
we're
itself
getting
is really
close.
good.
We're getting close to where we get to talk about that fun chapter in wrestling history.
To be clear, to our audience, we're not excited to talk about that.
No,
To be clear.
we've been putting it off as long as possible. We had long talks about when should we talk about that because we feel like we have to. It's obviously, I
It's an
mean,
elephant in the room situation.
yeah, and it and it when it happens, obviously, it kind of breaks the wall. I mean, it's talked about on Raw because Benoit was with Raw at the time. But yeah, I'm sure anyone who's listening knows what happened, the terrible story of Chris Benoit and the Woman, which we're not going to get to right now. But once they get together, which we're progressing very quickly to that. I think that part of the timeline when they do, I think that's probably when we'll touch on it. But just every time you see Benoit take a shot to the head, and that dude doesn't pull anything. He takes shots to the head. I think someone commented that he was one of the last guys in the game that would just take a chair shot straight to the head, and
Yeah, and he also throws
it's
his body
bad.
on the line,
Yeah.
like, in crazy ways, and, falls completely flat, and again, we'll talk about that a little later. I don't wanna get too far into that, but it was gnarly to watch, and it was definitely uncomfortable. The match itself was good. I enjoyed the match. I also did like the DQ finish because I think Chris Benoit losing clean would have been a mistake, personally, especially because 'cause they're kind of trying to make him, and really the Four Horsemen in general, a very important group, and they need to showcase him. I thought it was weird that he was in a world heavyweight championship match. Like, what has he done to earn that? I think their abuse of WCW World Heavyweight Championship matches on Nitro is becoming tiresome to me. That being said, Hogan's wearing the outfit I like, except for he's also got the eye patch. So that's, a thing. And speaking of outfits, Mach is in black, white, and silver, and that gets an A plus, and it's great.
I have to
The
comment
Yeah,
on
go ahead.
something, Joseph, because
Go
we
ahead.
we received a letter. We didn't actually receive a letter. This is just
No,
something
no,
I
no, go ahead.
noticed myself, and I thought some people might think this. I often criticize Hulk Hogan for having very formulaic matches, and I'm tired of those formulaic matches. Some might say that macho matches are fairly formulaic. They kind of go in a similar pattern, right? Mach gets his ass beat, he comes back for the win, elbow drop, whatever. Why don't I criticize Macho Man matches like I criticize Hulk Hogan matches? Well, thank you for asking, dear letter writer that doesn't
Yeah,
exist,
yeah, yeah.
because I wanted to touch on that here. And I think the difference is Mach puts over his opponents, he sells for his opponents. He gets the work, and frankly, he loses matches. So even if the matches are fairly similar, him getting beat, rallies for the comeback, elbow drop, I don't know that's gonna happen because Macho Man is willing to lose a match to put a guy over. He sells getting his ass beat to help put guys over. I'll never say a bad word about a legend that's willing to do that for a guy. Savage does it, Flair does it, Hulk Hogan does not do it.
The only thing I really didn't like about this is that when you're watching this kind of post-match stuff, and obviously woman turns heel, which, by the way, right call, woman's a great heel manager. Savage starts talking about Liz almost in a like, "What are you doing?" kind of thing, and almost planting the seeds of like suspicion into this, which I really dislike because spoilers, she's going to turn heel. And this is not the first time, and we've talked about this, that either Savage or Heenan will talk about a person who's clearly about to turn heel and drop hints to it that are so obvious, and then they turn heel. And I don't like that because the surprise of someone like Liz turning heel is so much better if you don't tease it because of how supposedly close her and Mach are.
Do we know it? Do we?
I mean, you're gonna have to pay $2 to find out.
Oh, what a sell. What a sell. But speaking of sells, Hulk Hogan gets to talk now because he came out with a chair. So naturally it's his time to speak. But Flair answers the call. He knows we don't want to hear this. And he sneaks up on him. He gets Hogan in his bad eye. Giant comes out. Zodiac stops him for some reason. Who knows what's going on? Savage comes in for the save. But Macho wonders why Miss Elizabeth didn't warn Hogan. Why indeed, Joseph? But up next, we got WCW Saturday Night, 605. Very exciting. BK Wall Street versus Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman. Wow, what a match. There's more stuff, but whatever. We don't talk about it. Anyways, the next match, though, is the Four Horsemen versus the Dungeon of Doom. There's trouble in paradise. The alliance between the Horsemen and the Dungeon is at an end. It is open warfare. That lasted about 2 weeks. We are apparently pushing Hugh Morris because Pillman can't put a dent in the guy. Sullivan also wants Pillman, bites the man's face. Arn has to come in and take care of business because Arn stands on business. They fight all over the arena. Arn gets hit with a broom by some mysterious individual. Pillman gets beat with a strap, and it's a DQ. The Horsemen defeat the Dungeon by DQ, 7 minutes, 17 seconds. Joseph, what do you make of all this?
Got a C from me. My first note is Hugh Morris is committed to his character. He's just really bad at his own character, so watching him is boring. I don't know how people don't just change the channel during his matches. So apparently I was really annoyed when I took this note. Because
Apparently,
I took this note like 2 months ago, and I'm like, "Damn, Joseph."
you didn't find it Hugh Morris at all.
Yeah, God.
You see what I
Anyways,
did there? You like
I s I do see what you did there. In fact, I guarantee you that's why they made that name.
Oh, of
I
course.
will say
That's his
I will
gimmick, right? He
yeah.
laughs. That's his name is Hugh Morris, and he laughs. That's his gimmick.
I will say this. I did enjoy, and we've talked about this a number of times, the Kevin Sullivan that we've kind of gotten during these segments with him and Arn, and his absolute hate of Brian Pillman, driving him to really just kind of be this brawler type character as opposed to the Taskmaster. It's a lot more fun, and I love that he's super intense and Arn, answers in turn. I think though, ending with another DQ finish. We've just had a DQ finish for a high profile match. Now your next match is also a DQ finish. I think it's an odd start. I think the story is potentially better in this match than it was the first match because the first match wasn't really story driven until after the match. This match is more story driven throughout, but the ending is far worse. And I think the match itself is far worse. So I got to see from me. It's not bad. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen by any stretch. I think C is a very fair grade to have. But I just think maybe one of the matches shouldn't have been a DQ. I don't really know how you work around it, or maybe you just put this match towards the end of the card. I don't know, but there's just stacking them up like that is a weird choice.
Well, this is the go home show. They have to leave things kind of dangling. They can't be ending these storylines before the pay per view. But I just also want to say thank you so much for saying that you like the Kevin Sullivan brawler thing because I've been saying that the whole time. And
Yep.
I just really appreciate that you agree. It makes me feel better. Could you imagine how good if he did that gimmick, just this Boston brawler guy, how many just fantastic matches he and Arn just going at it. It'd be so good. Be so
They'd
good.
they'd still be going today. Yeah.
Some say. Some say even. Yeah. Yeah. But let's keep this train rolling. Cuz next up we got the Nature Boy Ric Flair with the woman. She's with Flair now. She's a heel. My God. And he's going up against Marcus Alexander Bagwell of the American Males. Paul Orndorff comes out to the announce booth to slyly tell us that it was he with the broom that hit Arn. Oh, payback's a bitch there, Arn Anderson, double A. We are told that Savage has taken the Hulkster to the hospital. Your prayers are appreciated. Hulkamania, what a dark day, at least in one eye. I've been waiting the whole thing to make that joke, man.
That was so dumb.
You liked it, whatever.
I did. I loved it.
As for the match, though, pretty straightforward Flair match. Ends with a figure four, but Flair won't release. And Savage, who we were told had taken the Hulkster to the hospital, comes out to break it up. What'd you make of this? 7 minutes, 1 second, Joseph.
I liked the match. I thought it was good. It got a B from me. That's the highest grade I can give it because there's really no storyline between these two men. It's a really fun match. It's a glorified squash match, to be fair. At no point did Marcus Bagwell have a chance of winning this. And even if you were putting yourself in this time and looking at this, you'd know that there was no way, just based off his standing in the card. However, what you also see in this, WCW is very clearly high on him, and I think they should be. What he isn't exactly great at in the ring, he's definitely great at as a character, and will soon become great at as a character, and they can see that. And so they've pushed him a few times in having these, one-off matches with Lex Luger and Sting and now Ric Flair. And they've done the same thing with his tag team partner, but it's not quite working as well. And they clearly can tell that Marcus Bagwell's got something. They just don't really know what it is yet. So from that, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, Marcus Alexander Bagwell has a great look. has an absolute fantastic look, great look for a wrestler. I could see if I was a booker, I'd be like, this guy's got something. Let's try him. And you can see kind of why he's the Shawn Michaels of the American males, although he will never have Shawn Michael level of fame. But he does get a good push while in WCW. He's certainly a mainstay on their card for a long time. But I don't want to talk about that anymore, Joseph. I want to talk about something that's more important. And you know what that is?
What's that, Scott?
That Crash Course, the 1980 teen comedy classic, is on after Nitro. Let's segue and talk about the whole movie.
All right.
So it starts with the credits, the opening credits. And no,
Uh-huh.
go ahead. What were you saying?
Could you imagine if our listeners, the ones that we have who choose to watch this as they're kind of listening to the podcast and staying kind of in line with it, could you imagine if they actually watched all these movies afterwards? Like they just found them on Netflix or wherever and went, okay, now I'm gonna go watch that no, because it's what's on next.
Bro, what if that was one of our new additions of the Patreon where we watch the after Nitro movie and talk about it? Well, because
That's
that's kind of where Nitro got its name, right? Like Nitro was a brand kind of ID thing that Turner had, where it was like the action pack thing where they had like Nitro, and so Monday Nitro was like a movie thing before Monday Night Nitro became a wrestling thing. So we got to keep true to it. We got to watch all the Nitro things. You gonna
you
take it
say
back?
that. I think you say that, but I know what's gonna happen is if I texted you about that and went, hey, that's actually a really good idea. We should do it because by the way, it's a great idea and we should do it. You would go, I don't have time. And that's
Yeah,
all I would get
there's
back.
no way we're doing this. There's no way we're doing this. I refuse. Next when because at some point they have a dinner and a movie segue on WCW. Am I remembering that correctly? I think don't they have some dinner and the movie cross promotion happen? In my memory, I remember this happening. And I swear to God, we are not going to start watching dinner and a movie. Not going to happen. We're not going to do it.
We do have to find other content for our Patreon at some point. Not immediately. It's not an immediate thing, but right now it's just pay-per-views. So and it's only $2. So it's not like you're paying an arm and a leg for that.
Yeah, $1 to Joseph, $1 to me. So thanks, guys. We appreciate it. It's allowed me to keep my home. Thank you.
Got a roof over our heads because
Yeah,
of that dollar a month.
because the tax man came to my house and said, your taxes are delinquent by $1." And I said, "What the hell?
Well,
I'm
you
gonna give
you
you my
haven't checked
Nitro
my
money."
Patreon.
Yeah, here you go, Mr. Taxman. Take that and shove it.
And then he cried and he
Yeah,
left your house.
yeah, yeah. Because they had to back the bulldozer up. It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to cut all this because we're taking
There's
way
no
too
way
long
I'm
already.
cutting any of this.
This is so good. You're like, oh God, this is so good. This is entertainment. This is entertainment. But you know what isn't entertainment?
I'm going to assume our next match.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm not a huge fan of it. But which I should be because it has everything I want.
Yeah, I'm looking at the card right now, and I don't know how you don't like this
Yeah,
one.
you're looking at the card. You're seeing it's Lex Luger, it's Sting, it's the
Yeah.
Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, and it's for the tag team championships. You're saying, Scott, don't you love tag teams? Yes. Don't you love tag team moves? Yes. Don't you love main events? Why, yes, I do, Joseph. I love all those things. So why don't you like this? Because I don't think it's a great match. This is the match we've been waiting for, Joseph. The Road Warriors versus Lex and Sting. Sting wanted this one. He's wanted it since the Road Warriors arrived at WCW. Luger, though, not so much. He didn't really want to have this one. We get some Legion of Doom chants. The power goes off. Bischoff thinks WWF has something to do with that. We have to go to an unscheduled commercial break. And when we come back, Jimmy Hart comes down and slips Luger a metal plate. He uses it on Animal and they get the win. Ref doesn't see it. Lex and Sting retain the WCW World Tag Team Championship. 8 minutes, 37 seconds. The Road Warriors don't like this. They don't like losing that way. Sting doesn't like winning this way. But the Road Warriors, they want a title shot on whoever wins the Sting Luger versus Harlem Heat match. What did you make of all this?
I actually thoroughly enjoyed this. It wasn't the my favorite thing that I've ever seen, but I had a great time. It got to be for me. I thought the match was fun. I really liked kind of the story of Lex being dishonest still, but this time Sting actually sees it. He's kind of discovering that, hey, Lex is not always telling me the truth. And so it's kind of creating a division between the two men. That excites me because we all kind of knew that these two guys were going to have to split up at some point. I don't know how soon that'll be, but I'm enjoying that. And I'm gonna fast forward here a little bit. I'm pretty sure this carries over very well into Super Brawl.
You know what? You talked me into it. I love it. I love it. I don't know. It's just been hyped, and I don't know. I just
Well, I'm gonna throw your own logic back at you.
throw it to me. Throw it to me. Hit
Okay.
me with it.
This is the go home show. They can't give you the ending before the pay-per-view.
My God. He's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is 10 out of 10. I take it all back. No, I don't know. I guess it's fine. And I agree. It does progress a storyline of Lex kind of being underhanded because Lex is a bad guy now. He is a
Mhm.
heel and Sting is a good guy, but they're buddies in real life. So they're putting their differences aside to be tag team that they kind of stumbled onto accidentally. I don't know. I like the Road Warriors, but I don't know if they really got it anymore. And Sting's not, or and Luger, Sting's great. Why would I say that? Sorry, everybody. Sting is great. Luger's not really a great wrestler either. I just felt like overall it just wasn't a great match, although it did progress a storyline.
So you think that maybe the Road Warriors are just kind of over the hill at this point?
Yeah, I like the Road Warriors a lot. And I just
To be fair, didn't Animal just come back from injury? So they could just be a little bit of ring rust.
all right. All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. I mean, honestly, they don't stick around that long. I don't even know.
They do
I,
not.
I don't
No.
even know if we see another tag team match between them because they have some issues, but yeah, I mean that ends it though. That's pretty much that's the end of the night for WCW Nitro. Like I said, the Road Warriors they don't like the way they lost. They want a title shot on whoever wins the Sting Luger versus Harlem Heat match. We're out, but we're not out because next up we've got WWF Raw from the Stockton Civic Auditorium in Stockton, California. WCW is coming up on Super Brawl, but WWF is coming up on In Your House 6. Very exciting. Whoa, I can't wait. Let's talk about tonight. The first match, Joseph, is Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Yokozuna and the British Bulldog. Jerry and Vince talk about Shawn and Diesel. They're undefeated as a team. That's pretty exciting. There's some trouble in paradise over at Camp Cornette. It's pretty exciting match back and forth. Shawn gets thrown by a Diesel, which I thought was fun. And ultimately, though, it ends in a count out. Yokozuna gets knocked out of the ring and he has trouble getting back in because he's 600 plus pounds. And Shawn Michaels and Diesel defeat Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, and Yokozuna. What'd you make of this, Joseph?
I actually thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought that Shawn and Diesel did a really good job of making Yokozuna look great. And I think it concludes with the Yokozuna finally having had enough of Jim Cornette, right? In the post match.
Yeah, Cornette yells at Yokozuna, and then Yokozuna beats his ass.
I think when you look at those things, how well he does in the ring, and a lot of it is because of Shawn selling like crazy for him and Diesel too. I think this is the best we've seen of Yokozuna the entire time that we've been doing this podcast. I think that there's an intensity. We're going to see a great promo from him, I think, in a week or so. I really enjoyed it. I thought it got an A for me. I thought the match made a lot of sense. It moved storylines forward. It was a great start to Raw.
Yeah, I think we're at a really interesting time. We're at a really interesting time where WCW is kind of spinning in circles. They're kind of spinning in circles. While WWF, I feel like is really starting to slowly, but they're starting to be on this uptick. They're starting to get the guys that we know, that we love, that make up the Attitude Era, and you can see it happening. The product is getting better. And this was another one of those matches. I liked it. Like I said, there's fun stuff that they do here. It was a good match, you know. It came out the way we wanted. The faces win, the heels lose, yay. And Yokozuna, but now Yokozuna's on our side. I will mention that I have in my notes though that Vince describes in the post-match Jim Cornette yelling at Yokozuna as verbally raping him.
Well, that's timing.
Yeah. And, knowing everything we know now, I mean, we always kinda knew about Vince, but now we know.
Yeah, so in case everybody's wondering, we're recording this on February 3rd, and a few days ago, the massive news from the Wall Street Journal came out that Vince McMahon basically is a bag of shit, which everybody knew, but they go
Yeah.
into detail. I don't know if we
Well
wanna go too long
Well,
form in
I
it.
have a buddy who likes to say, "We knew, but we didn't know."
Yeah.
And I kinda feel like we know now. Like, we always knew that, yeah, he was sleazy, he was the Mr. McMahon character, maybe not that far removed from the real person, but we didn't know he was a human sex trafficker, and now we do.
Yeah,
And
and,
that's kind of the line, you know? I feel like that might be the line. It just might
yeah.
be.
There to be clear, we're not laughing at at that. We're laughing at the absurdity of just this man and how he could possibly think any of this is okay, and just the way he is. And it's not just him. Number of people got named in it. Thankfully, I think nobody that either of us had a great amount of respect for, so that's good because that always sucks.
Yeah, yeah,
That happened recently with another
yes.
wrestling personality, and unfortunately, this is going to happen quite a bit. The good thing about it is this: is that some of the women who have been on screen that we know are finally able to kind of speak about things and have slowly started to come out of the woodwork. And I'm not going to go too far into that, but I guess woodwork's kind of the wrong phrase, but they've been kind of able to come out and say, hey, here's some of the stuff that I had to deal with. And unfortunately, this podcast is going to have to cover a lot of that kind of stuff. And if we move into the brand wars, we're going to have to cover a lot of it there too. And unfortunately, I've said it before, but those women really are the reason that we're able to have great wrestling nowadays. If it wasn't for them having to kind of be pimped out on television, we wouldn't be able to have some of the good things. Or at least if we did, it would take place a decade later than it should have. And it's unfortunate, but it's nice to see some validation to some really unfortunate situations happen. So that's the only silver lining I can think of. Also, he's no longer part of WWE. So they get to finally move on, which I think is great because everybody's wanted
Yeah,
it.
man, and WWF, man, is clicking on or WWE is clicking on all cylinders now.
Yeah, they're
Very
doing a
excited.
great job. Their product's been great. Now, this is look, is this a step backwards for them? Of course it is, because they got bad press and so they have to deal with it. But I think if they can manage to make it past it, they've got the talent, they've got the writing, they've got the production, they've got everything they need to be phenomenal still. And they are doing that. So I think that's enough said about the whole scenario.
Yeah, I mean, just wrestling, especially at this time that we're talking about, is kind of a dirty, sleazy business, and
Yes.
it's just with a lot of big egos, bad people, and I think a lot of people kind of shy away from it. Like a lot of people have just kind of completely memory hold Chris Benoit and like don't want to talk about him. And I guess we're gonna talk about Chris Benoit again because I've decided we are. But I think what we set out to do in this podcast was we kind of wanted to separate. We're gonna talk about backstage stuff when it's relevant to the product, but we're really here to talk about the product and our love of the product at this time.
Yeah.
This is when we found our love for wrestling. This is what we were watching as kids. It's kind of the nostalgia element. So we're not gonna shy away from the bad stuff, but at the same time, when someone has a banger match, we're gonna say, yeah, a banger match. We're not gonna say, oh, he who shall not be named. We're talking about the product. We're sticking with the product. There are times when we're really going to like Vince McMahon as a character during our run, and
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
not that says nothing about who he is in real life and our disdain for him in real life, because we both have tremendous disdain for him in real life, and really even before we knew how bad he was, we both didn't really like him. He's gonna have some good stuff product wise, story wise, and we're just gonna have to tell it like it is. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think you kind of see that with how we've treated a lot of some of the other talent who we know are not great people. Jerry the King Lawler, we've had some good positive things to say about some of his segments, a lot of negative ones as well. We're going to have that with Shawn Michaels is my all-time favorite wrestler. Unfortunately, during this time, not a great person. And also, Shawn has never shied away from that. He will admit that he was not a great person this time. So that makes it a lot easier to talk about because it's not really hidden. But I think we're gonna have to just kind of talk about what is relevant and what isn't relevant. Just kind of leave it to the wayside. But unfortunately, this situation is very relevant, and it's crazy that you picked out that line because yeah, it's not the first time he would think something like that is funny, and it will not be the last time that he'll think something like that is funny or be on his program.
Well, on that fun note, let's talk about something that we're actually excited about, something we're happy to talk about, and a genuinely good guy. We have a vignette here. Someone is coming, and he's missing part of his ear. Who could this be, Joseph? Who could this be?
Sid Vicious.
No. What the hell are you doing? What?
Booty Man.
Do you even like wrestling? Mankind is coming. Mick Foley.
I love it. I don't even remember
I thought you were
what
gonna
he
say
says.
I thought you were gonna say, "Never heard of him."
I don't even remember what he says in this promo, or this vignette. I just remember that I thought it was phenomenal. It got an A for me. We've talked about tonal shifts that we've seen, right? We've talked about Steve Austin and really kind of seeing an intensity we had not seen. From a character standpoint, Mankind already is a tonal shift in something we have not seen on WWF programming. You can feel it immediately when you see these vignettes.
Yeah, I didn't write down exactly what he's saying, but they do a couple of these and they're pretty similar. It's kind of a dark it's a dark kind of room, very shadowy. It's hard to see, but they're really playing up that he's only got one ear because I think they're trying to show he's saying crazy stuff. Like they're trying to show this guy is off his rocker. He's wild. It's dark, it's edgy. Yeah, it's different. It's completely different than the kind of kids product that WWF has been up to this point. And you're seeing that more and more with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mankind and all of that. Like WWF is taking an edgier turn now. And we're not the Attitude Era yet, but it's kind of fun just to watch these elements coming together. Gold Dust, another example of that. It's exciting. It's interesting. After that, though, we got a match. We got the 1-2-3 Kid versus Hakushi, and Hakushi loses because I don't like. We kind of it's weird. We put him over. We were putting him over. We had those vignettes about like the Americanization of Hakushi, and then the dude just started losing all the time. I don't know why we did that. I was kind of all about it, and there's like, nah, just kidding. But Joseph, what'd you make about this? This match kind of boring. I felt. What'd you think?
See, I disagree, but I do have a question for you, which is what the hell happened to Santa Claus?
What?
You don't remember that? Santa Claus?
Tell me more. What are you talking about?
You don't remember when fake Santa Claus from the South Pole, Santa Claus, was bought by Ted DiBiase as the
Oh
new
yeah,
member
yeah, yeah, yeah,
of the
yeah.
Million Dollar Corporation?
Yes.
We haven't seen him since that happened.
Well, he had to go back to the south, the north, the South Pole, wherever the hell he's from.
I just thought it was hilarious. I was watching this going, wait, didn't they have another member? Whatever. Anyways, it was a dumb idea. They should never have gone with it in the first place.
I mean, it's
I
good they
liked
got
the
rid of
match.
it. It's good they
Yes,
got rid of it
yeah.
because WCW would have kept it going for a couple of weeks.
It'd be
Like
it'd be the new heel to fight Hogan.
it'd be the Yeti. It would be.
Oh my gosh. That actually now you see you've sold me on it. Now I want to see it. I enjoyed this match. I thought this match was good. It was from a technical standpoint, it's very well done. I do think from a storyline standpoint, you're right. It's boring, right? Because it doesn't do anything really for either man. And I kind of feel like, why wasn't this the rivalry? Because both men in the ring are phenomenal. They're very good in the ring. Phenomenal may not be the right word, but they're very good in the ring. And they have a very good match. It's a clean, crisp match. It ends with not six. I'm sorry, he hasn't become six yet. 1-2-3 Kid ends with him going over. And I thought he desperately needs to start winning some matches clean because how do you take him seriously as a heel? I think this makes more sense for kind of a rivalry between these two men. They could have just a fun back and forth mid card rivalry and let Razor Ramon go do something else, but they just won't ever learn that. And to your point, I do feel bad because like Hakushi all of a sudden just doesn't matter anymore. And a year ago, he was one of their top heels, or at least one of their top mid card heels. And now he's just kind of lost in the shuffle. So I enjoyed the match. The match actually was good, but I think from a storyline standpoint, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good technical match, and you're right about that. I think this rivalry would have been fun because I think they play off of each other well. But both characters are just kind of flailing at this point. Hakushi.
That I can agree with.
Yeah,
Completely.
and it's just kind of like, what are we doing? Like, I guess maybe my disappointment is in what could have been, not what was. And so that's kind of where I'm just kind of, but like you said, overall, like pretty good technical match, just going nowhere. But just going nowhere. After that, though, Clarence Mason is out to get Vader reinstated, and he's gonna sue WWF. They show the video of Gorilla getting attacked by Vader. That's what got him suspended. Monsoon says he's recovering from his injuries and apologizes to the fans about everything that happens. But he knows that Rowdy Roddy Piper is gonna be a great interim president. What'd you think about this whole thing, Joseph?
I liked Gorilla Monsoon's portion of it. I actually thought that Clarence Mason and Jim Cornette were a little bit flat. I feel like we've kind of seen them already say this a number of times. I really enjoyed Gorilla Monsoon and kind of him finally getting to talk about it. I thought it's hilarious that he lists all the injuries that he has. He lists like it's almost like a paragraph's worth of injuries, and all he's wearing is a neck brace. I thought that was hilarious. And I enjoyed it though. It got to be for me. I think Real Monsoon, honestly, the few times they've been able to have him kind of just do his thing has been enjoyable. So I liked it.
Well, I mean, what more do you need to know the Gorilla's hurt? I mean, obviously the neck brace, but I mean, you can't see the rib tape, but the rib tape is obviously there too, because those are the two most debilitating injuries for a wrestler: is the neck brace and the rib tape.
Yeah.
And he had
And,
both. You just couldn't see the rib tape.
or the wrapped up arm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which Macho Man wrestled on for like a year.
Yeah.
It was actually injured, but whatever. We don't
Yeah.
care. We don't care when it's a real injury. After that, though, we've got our world title match. It's Undertaker versus Bret Hart. Diesel joins us for some commentary because Bret and Diesel and Undertaker, for that matter, they all got some beef. They got beef. Overall, I think a pretty standard Undertaker Bret Hart match. I didn't dislike it. What did you make of it?
So I think this was well done by all three men. This actually got an A for me. I thought everybody played their part perfectly. I liked that there was no winner, because how do you really decide that? I think if you have a clear winner in any direction, it really kind of hurts whoever loses. And honestly, we need this to become Diesel versus Taker. That's what they're clearly moving towards, and they have to, because we're going to end up having WrestleMania. It makes more sense to have Shawn versus Bret than it would be to make Bret not the champion, and then Shawn goes against the new champion at WrestleMania. That's like, it's too much of a transitional champion situation. So just go with somebody established. I think that makes a lot of sense too. So you kind of have to build this up as they're building it. I really enjoy, and I've said it for a few weeks now, I really enjoy this storyline that's been developing between Diesel and Taker. I think it's the most clear storyline of all their storylines going on in WWF. It's the one that's the most interesting to me. It's the one that I'm actually like really hyped for, to watch a match that, ends and culminates in how this all goes. I only wish that we had seen the ref call it a draw and not just have it as a recap afterwards. But other than that, it was a really good match. Got an A.
Yeah, I guess I should explain, because I didn't explain it, and I apologize to our listeners. Diesel jumps in, he gets Bret from behind, and he jackknifes Undertaker, and that's what happened. Just everybody's fighting. This is an interesting three-way feud we've got going here. We also had some good moves. We got an old school, which I love. I love some old school. We get referee bumps. That's ultimately what happened. We got a referee bump, and then didn't see some things and all of that. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good match. I think it's progressing a storyline. I wish they would do something with the three-way storyline, but they don't. Eventually, Bret kind of gets split off to feud with Shawn Michaels. But overall, I think it's a good feud they got going here, and it's interesting to me. After that, though, we've got the Billionaire Ted segment. I think this is probably there are many, but this is the Billionaire Ted segment. This is the one I think gets them in trouble, because it's a press conference and Ted's talking about how he'll do anything to put WWF out of business. He'll even lose millions of dollars of stockholders' money just to have fun, just because he's having fun. And I think stock manipulation is a crime. You can't be doing that. And I think this might be where WWF went too far. What did you think about this, Joseph?
It got an F. It's not good. I really kind of only have one set of notes here, which is basically that Vince loses his mind, and it's all personal shots, and it ends with an ad with the New York Times that the New York Times would not run about Ted Turner. And so instead what they do is they just broadcast the ad, which was really a poor decision on Vince's part. And my final note on this is, never forget that before Tony Khan, Vince was the original petty booker.
We are going to get so many letters. So many letters.
Tell me I'm wrong, though. I mean, Jesus, like, just stay off your phone.
Yeah, no, it's
Stay,
true.
just,
It's true. It was it's kind of amazing too how going into a little bit of the background on this, how you and I really kind of came up with this because we came back to wrestling after an extended pause because of AEW, because we thought AEW was doing something exciting, doing something fun. We were watching AEW, and now I don't think either of us like AEW anymore. We think it's overstayed its welcome. It's gotten stale. It's going in circles. And WWF, WWE, it's really popping now, which is funny how these things turn, but that's where we're
yeah.
at.
Well, it's like poetry, it sort of rhymes.
Ooh, man, that is poetry. But you know what else was poetry?
What's that, Scott?
That this is the end of the night and how poetic it was. What did you make of overall the two shows? Who won, who lost, and what do the ratings say?
So I thoroughly enjoyed, well, let's not say thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed both programs. I thought they were both good. I do think that Raw was just a hair better, though. I think it was a little more consistent across the board. I think overall Nitro is just not quite as good, but they were both pretty well done. Again, I think Nitro's problem is the weird booking of two disqualifications back to back. I think they could have staggered that out a little bit better. But I enjoyed both shows. I'm going to give it to Raw. But as far as the Nielsen goes, Raw got a 2.7.
I think you're right. I think Raw was the better product tonight. Like I said, I feel like WCW at this point is really kind of spinning in circles. They really need NWO because they're just kind of out of creative ideas, I feel. They're just kind of recycling the same stuff. Hogan versus Dungeon of Doom, Hogan versus the Four Horsemen, Four Horsemen versus Dungeon of Doom and Four Horsemen versus Hogan. That's basically all it is, over and over and over and over and over. And they need something new. They need something fresh. They're spinning in circles. While WWF is really on an uptick. It's a slow burn, but I really feel like they're getting better every week. We're getting new, good characters. We're getting interesting storylines. We're getting a little edge to it. It's good, but the fans disagree with us because they gave it to WCW tonight. WCW got a 2.9. So
Wow.
beat WWF by 0.2.
That might have to do with the fact that it is the go home show. I could see wanting to tune into that to kind of right before the pay-per-view. I could see that.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's probably fair. Wanting to see all the storylines kind of tied up or set up for the pay-per-view, know
Mhm.
what you're getting into. I mean, if you're going to plop some money down, you kind of want to be ready to go. You want to
Yeah.
know what you're watching. So that's probably fair. What a great point. You've had so many of them tonight.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
And I just want to tell you that I appreciate you. And I also see that we're only at 54 minutes, so I'm just trying to pad out time at this point.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've been actually like cutting these down as much as I can. Because guess what, folks? At some point, and this is actually fun to talk about, it's actually probably good to talk about now, is that at some point, Nitro will eventually become 2 hours, and then Raw will become 2 hours, and then Nitro will become 3 hours. And we got to figure out how to make this a very tight program when all that happens, because I don't want, neither of us want us going beyond an hour. So
Yeah, our commitment to you is we're going to keep these to no more than an hour. That's kind of what we said when we started. Like, people don't want to listen to us ramble for more than an hour.
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I've been trying to get really good at cutting down things, and so far I can pretty much, no matter what we're talking about, cut about 20 minutes out. I'm trying to get as good and tight as I can, so that way when we get to those, we're still in like kind of that 50-minute range, and you guys don't have to worry about it hurting your ears too much.
And look at you, just doing what the people want. Short, tight, condensed, banger programs. Joseph's got you. And that's it for us, because apparently he's going to cut all this out because we're 5 minutes over. So on behalf of Scott and Joseph, good night, everybody.
Bye, guys. Hey, everybody, it's Joseph. And guess what? Not only can you listen to us every Monday on Spotify, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Podcasts as well. Just search for Monday Night Wars Podcasts. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at MON Night Wars Pod, on Instagram at Monday Night Wars Podcast, or just email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, subscribe to our Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For $2 a month, you get every pay-per-view from WCW and WWF during this era, as well as additional content later on. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you here next time on the Monday Night Wars Podcast. So I beat Alan Wake, by the way.
Oh, how'd you feel about that? How'd you like it, man? It's an ocean!
I
That's what
enjoyed it.
I've been
I
waiting to do
enjoyed it.
that for like a month or however long it's taking you to do it.
So I have a question for you. Did you play the DLCs that came out afterwards?
I don't think I did.
Okay, because there's one
Like
called
American Nightmare? That
No, that was a separate game. There was 2 DLCs that came out after Alan Wake the game, both part of Alan Wake, and one was called The Signal, and the second one's called The Writer, and they're both continuations of the story.
I don't think I have. I probably have them, and I just never done it.
Okay, because I played The Signal, and I've gotten most of the way through, and I gotta say, I hate it. Like, that DLC particularly, I just can't stand. Like, they're just mobs of enemies, and it's like, "Fuck, this is not fun." And so I was gonna ask, like, if you had played them, are they worth it? Or should I maybe just watch the story to just see what, like, on YouTube or something and then play on Wake 2? But
Apparently, because I didn't play them, they're not worth playing.
there you go.
So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, 'cause I must have read somewhere that they're not worth playing and then didn't play them myself. 'Cause Alan Wake, that's a good ass game, man.
It was a good game. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by that, especially because the mechanics are very simplistic, but they were enjoyable.
Yeah, it was funny when you're like, "This was this, like, released, like, in episodes? Because it's weird how it's, like, episodic." And I was like, "That is weird, isn't it? That is weird, isn't it?"
Yeah, yeah, that's I
Almost like chapters in a book.
yeah. I liked the whole, I like because to be fair, there around that time in video games, a lot of games came out like that, like the Telltale series. All of their games, whether you're playing The Walking Dead or whatnot, they'd come out as, like, episodes. So you'd pay, like, $10 and you get the new episode. And then you would play that for, however many hours it took to beat it. And then you'd wait a few months, the new episode would come out and you pay on $10 for that one until you had the whole season. So I was wondering if Alan Wake was like that too.
But no, it's part of the story.
Yeah, it was good.
What a
I enjoyed it.
story it is. Did you get all the thermoses? Did you get all 100 thermoses and not 99?
Hell no.
Just like me?
Hell
I
no. I
have
don't
to go back and get all 100 thermoses.
I just don't. The only thing that I'm actually upset about is I didn't find the last TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
I
did
didn't
get
find that.
I got that achievement.
So
I tell you
that
though,
was the one that I was like, "Oh, I'll definitely get this," and somehow I just didn't find the last one.
there is nothing more infuriating than playing through that whole game again to get all 100 thermoses and the credits roll and you don't get the achievement and you're like, "Well, that's weird. Why didn't I get the achievement?" And then you go into your achievements and it says 99 out of 100. Son of a bitch. Can't believe I missed one thermos. And I had a guide. I was going through a guide to do this.
That's
And I just
hilarious.
missed one. I must have forgotten. Well, on that note, and I'm gonna pause there because I drank too much country time lemonade and I have to go use the bathroom.
There's our blooper.
So we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. Please wait for this message and station identification.
See, if this guy was a real man, he would just go to the restroom and keep recording the podcast. Just power through it.
So how you doing, man?
I'm good. Your bladder gladder.
Man, I just dumped like a gallon. Country time lemonade.